Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy, Gsluke, here with our DFS and prop live stream for round one of this week's Truist Championship. Going to go over any questions that you've got for me in the live chat. We'll look at some of the Underdog and Prize Picks props over there on the round one board, as well as any matchups and free balls that you're curious about as well, and any outright bets that have added to the card since Monday. But hopefully your Wednesday is treating you guys nicely. It's always like the night before Christmas when you've got a big time field like this, and also a brand new golf course to go ahead and break down. Mostly we see those over there for the majors, right, with some of the newer courses that they bring into the mix. But this time, it's a regular PGA Tour event where we're getting the added bonus of a brand new golf course. So here in this prop breakdown, we're going to get you ready for all of your exposure tomorrow. So we'll talk about the golf course, what I expect from some of those conditions. We'll take a look at the weather report as well, right, how that'll factor into play out there for tomorrow, our exposure, and then all that other stuff on the sports books too. But we already got Joseph down there in chat. He's representing Philly over there. He said he's stoked for Philly cricket. Yeah, me as well, man. And next year at Aronimink, I'm going to try and make it up there. So if so, we'll definitely have to link up. Jay Ramos asked what I was snacking on in between live streams. A little bit of a peanut butter sandwich. I'm a very simple man when it comes to some of my snacks. So give me a little bit of toast, a little bit of peanut butter in between, and it's a perfect little snack in between the streams. And I like those out on the golf course as well. I was actually playing 18 holes out there today. Didn't go all that well, but we did have a peanut butter sandwich out there too. And yeah, big loop gang, as my guy Jay says. So let's talk about this golf course first. So any questions, feel free to go ahead and let me know. Let's talk about what I'm expecting from this track. And based on the interviews that we had over there today, also they had a live on the range sesh earlier this afternoon on the YouTube. And the player said that there was going to be a lot of birdies out there, and especially on the front nine. So just to kind of show you why that would be the case, first two holes are sub 400 yard par fours. You also have the first par three being at sub 175 yards. Your par fives are sub 560 yards, so easily reachable out there for the entire field. Seven's a shorter par four. Eight, your first difficult hole that you really have on the golf course. And outside of 3 or 4 approach shots that you're going to have throughout the round, I think that this is a very manageable golf course. And when you add on top of that players were saying today that the rough wasn't all that bad, that heck, even the bunkers, if you hit into the fairway bunkers, you can still reach a lot of the greens out there in two, makes me think that the scoring average is likely going to be well under par, probably at least a stroke under. And if you guys caught the bet the number breakdown that I did earlier this week, in fact, posted earlier this morning over there on the Bet the Number blog, you can see that I was calling for, I believe, what was it, a minus 0.5 to minus 2 scoring average. So a pretty wide range of scores out there. But after hearing what they said out there on the golf course, and especially the players out there from their lips themselves, I think it's at least -1 to probably a minus 2.5 scoring average. So I think that they're really going to get after this golf course, partially because of how straightforward the setup is. But they've also had a lot of rain in the area this week. And tomorrow, you're talking about next to no wind. I mean, I'm talking about sub 5 miles an hour sustained the entire day, wind gusts that aren't getting above 8 miles an hour, and temperatures that are in the mid 70s. So very comfortable over there at the Philadelphia Cricket Club. So I think that you're going to see these guys, maybe even your first round leader, get to like -8, that kind of thing, which for a par 70 with only 2 par 5s on the scorecard is a lot better scoring than what we're used to seeing. So we're actually going to go through some pin locations here together as well. But before we do so, and we do the full deep dive out there, let's talk about the 2 props from the free preview that we did. And we're going to add a lot on top of this over here with the live stream here. So it's not just these 2 props that we're going to go through here together. But if you guys saw the Bet the Number preview, and if you guys haven't already subscribed to the free newsletter over there, what are you waiting for? It is just free money over there on the Bet the Number newsletter. This is not the kind of blog that you have to pay for. This is completely free of charge over there on the Bet the Number site. And down there in the description, you guys can find the link out there to this blog, and you can set a reminder at the bottom with your email to go out there and get this every single week. And not only do I give you guys this free play out there for round number 1, but a complete breakdown of the weather, the modeling for this week. Usually we have stat averages, not this time around because it is a brand new golf course, but the complete breakdown of what you need for any given tour event. So make sure to check that out if you guys haven't already. But let's talk about the 2 plays that I had from that. So it was 2 overs on birdies. The first one was Cam Davis, who they have here at 3.5 birdies. And then the other one was Russell Henley, who was at 4 birdies over here on Prize Picks. So it is a 2.75 5x slip if you play these two together. And I think the birdie average, just to give you guys an idea over there, I think at least a -1 scoring average, probably at least 4 birdies per round. Those two par fives are pretty much gimme birdie looks. They are sub 550 yards, so those are as easy as par fives get out there on the PGA Tour. No wind out there, also relatively soft greens. I don't want to say that it's automatic birdies on those two holes, but that's probably at least 1.5 birdies per round between those two for most of the field. You add on top of it all the sub 400 yard par fours, heck, even the mid to shorter, like the 425 to 450 yard par fours. It's soft conditions, no wind out there. They're going to be able to go out there and throw some darts. Birdie average, I've got close to 4 per round. So to give you an idea out there on Cam Davis, let me actually bring up the stats on PGAtour.com real quick, just because it's so impressive out there on Cam that I've got to show you it myself, just why I like him so much for an over on birdies. He hasn't even had the best start to the year. Cam Davis, I think he would admit it himself, has had a lackluster start to 2025. No wins, no real top fives to speak of for the season. And look who's number 3 on the birdie or better list for this year. Yeah, Cam Davis, obviously, who we're taking for that over there. So despite not even having his best form over there this season, he's outscoring his placement position in almost every single event that he's playing in. And if I think the average for the field is going to be at least 4 per round, asking Cam Davis, the number 3 birdie maker in all the PGA Tour, to go out there and have a field average day is, I think, extremely reasonable to ask from him. So that's why I'm taking his over at that sort of number. And if we scroll down here just a little bit, you'll see that Russell Henley is down here at number 6, the number 6 player in all the PGA Tour when it comes to birdie or better percentage. If you guys saw my DFS breakdown earlier on this evening, or if you've seen my betting and DFS preview earlier this week over there on my YouTube channel, you guys will know that I bet him for an outright. I like him around this sort of track. He's getting close to 0.8 strokes approach per round lately. He won at the API. He plays well at these shorter par 70s out there around the PGA Tour. So as the number 6 birdie maker on the PGA Tour, I have a lot of confidence, especially with the form with Russell Henley, one of the best form players that you have in this kind of a field, to at least go out there and match that kind of a field average, if not to go over it, because of the course fit and how much I like them around this style of golf course. So those are the two overs that I took, number 3 and number 6 respectively, when it comes to the birdie or better list. And it's not even just that the skill set on those two kind of players lines up. It's also the fact that the weather's lining up. Soft greens usually means a higher birdie percentage. No wind means that players can go out there and be aggressive. And I haven't taken a look at these pins yet because they dropped a few minutes before we got on the live stream here. But if we go through the pins and they look pretty straightforward, then I'm going to feel even better about these two leans that we already took. So I already mentioned, right, these are not going to be the only props that we go through here on the stream. Just wanted to point them out for anyone that didn't see those ones over there before. But we're going to go through these pin locations, get a real good taste for the conditions. I already have a shit ton of slips in, by the way, over there for round 1. So I'm not expecting this to really change my stance too much over there for Thursday, but I do want to go through the pins and kind of see what they're giving us over there. And we could talk through some Myrtle Beach stuff as well. The Myrtle Beach is the alternate event over there on the PGA Tour this week. And you can see they have some guys posted over here. So, for example, this Chris Goddard prop, he's over there from Dunes Golf Club. That is the Myrtle Beach Classic, I believe, is the name of that event, right? Tom Kim, this 4.5 line, is over there from that golf tournament. After we go through the full deep dive of pins, finish off our PGA discussion, we're going to add in some of this stuff from Myrtle Beach because I like a few props already over there from that side. And if we take one Myrtle Beach, one prop over here from Truist, we can get a 3x payout out there on a slip. So we can take away some of the correlation rules and get a little bit of a better payout out there to work with. So let's start off with these pin locations though. So hole number 1, it's like in the back middle, and it's a ways back there, but it's a 300-yard par 4 to begin with. I'm not really sure people are going to try and drive this green because, I mean, 360 is asking a whole lot anyways. And in this back middle corner, it's the easiest wedge shot that I think I've ever seen. There's a little bit of a backstop to work with, but everything rolls from back to front. So I think a lot of players are going to choose to hit it just past the hole and then spin it back to the green, back to the pin location, I should say. This pin over here at hole number 1 is an extremely straightforward pin location. Next up, we have hole 2, which is in this like back right corner. It's not truly like tucked in the back right. It's more so about where my cursor is right now, or about 4 to 5 paces to the right of where the pin is on this graphic, which I would say on a shorter par 4, this is a gettable pin location. This front one might actually be pretty tough because you can see here, there's a down slope here at the front side of the screen. So if you miss short on this bunker and you had a front side pin location here, that actually might be a trickier location. But because it's only 373, I think there's a chance. Hole number 1, they may even choose to do this too, to make it a drivable par 4. But for round number 1, the first time that these guys are seeing this kind of golf course, I highly doubt that they're going to throw them a curveball that big, right? They go out there and move up a tee box. And I think that these pin locations that, I mean, if you're just looking at the overhead view, they're in the back, they kind of look tucked. You may think that they're extremely difficult. They're not. I mean, you got a backstop behind this one. You can roll it back off of it. In fact, you can take it a little bit behind it into the left, and it'll come back and to the right, back down to that pin location. I think that one, you're going to see a whole bunch of birdies, just like you do at hole number 1. Hole 3 is in this back left, so this is a par 3. I would say a little bit trickier than the first few holes, just because you don't have that kind of slope helping you out there to this back left corner, and because it's a longer approach shot, you're going to have slightly more left to right dispersion. So, you know, I wouldn't say it's a hard pin location at 3, but it's not as straightforward as the first few holes. Hole 4 is another one of these gettable par 4s. This one's on this front right corner. In fact, just to double check, it is 5 from the right and then 14 paces on. So it's not a front pin. It's about where my cursor is right now. And it doesn't look like they're challenging these players that much, because if they really wanted to challenge these players, right, they'd put something back on this back shelf where you've got this little bit of a slope bisecting the green that you can see right down the middle where my cursor is. If they were going to make it hard, right, they'd put it on top of that kind of slope. All of the pins that we've seen so far have been on the easiest portions of these greens from the overhead view. Hole number 5 is your first par 5, and this one is a front pin location. It's already extremely short, but it's going to play even shorter to this front side. Expect to see eagles over there at hole number 5, and a ton of birdies, of course, for those that aren't making eagle. Hole number 6 is another positional par 4. This one's in the back right corner. It is 7 paces from the side, so it's not as tucked as they could make it. And though it is a slightly longer approach shot, you do have some slope from just behind the green here, where if you end up coming in a little bit hot, it's going to stop the ball, and you're probably going to have like 10 to 15 feet for birdie. So this seems to be a predominant, or, you know, something that's common along a lot of the holes here, where I think if you're really good with your distance control with your irons, you're just going to be in money all day. Because if you're long here, this sucks. If you're short-sided in this rough over the green, you're dead to this sort of a pin location. But if you're not long, almost every other miss is perfect, because you're going to have the slope helping you if you come in a little bit hot. If you end up hitting it a little bit short, then you're putting back up the slope to go out there, and you have an easier putt to go out there and make birdie. These pin locations don't look super tricky, and they can make some tricky pins around this golf course. 7 is over here in the front right. This looks like a trickier pin location. If you're in the fairway, this won't be hard, because you have this backstop that if you're out of the fairway and you can apply spin to the golf ball, you're going to be able to spin it off of it and down to the pin location. But if you hit it in the rough on hole number 7 here, you're going to have a really tough time hitting it close, because you're not going to get spin out of that rough, and you're going to have a harder time hitting it close. So based on what I've seen so far, hitting fairways really matters. Like holes 1 and 2 with the wedge, you need to be hitting from the fairway. 7 is a hole where you have to be hitting from the fairway. You know, to go back to 5 real quickly, if you hit the fairway here, I guess it's one of the narrower fairways that we have around this golf course, then you can go forward to have a potential eagle look. So I think that you're going to see a lot of birdies, especially on this front 9. It is by far the easiest of the easiest of the 2 sides. I need a sip of water. Mouth was getting way too dry there, as you may have told. Hole 8 over here, so it's going to be a back left pin location. This is a 240-yard par 3. So this is an extremely difficult hole to begin with, and this pin location isn't going to make it any easier. So this is one of the 4 or 5 holes where you just got to make a par and get out of there. But I mean, just how many birdie looks have we seen to this point? So like most players are probably going to be at least like -1, -2 by this point. So even if they bogey hole number 8, it's not going to be the end of the world. Hole 9 is 426, so another shorter par 4. The pin location at 9 is in this middle left quadrant, where this is actually a harder pin location than what you had for some of the first few holes. Because if you miss left, it's short-sided, and it's on a little bit of a high spot over here on this left corner. The first few holes, though, like especially like the first 4 or 5, all on the low spots and all really simple pin locations. So, holes like 8 and 9 are, I think, the exception, not the norm. Hole 10 is 453, so another pretty reasonable par 4. That's got about 20 more yards to it than some of the other ones we've had, though. This pin location is on the low spot, though, so if it was over here in this front left corner, I'd have a little bit more hesitation at calling it easy, but over there on this side, I think you'll see plenty of birdies. Hole 11 is over here in this front right corner. This is a harder par 4. It is a lot longer than what you have with some of the other holes. So this is another one like hole 8 where you're kind of just trying to hold on and make a par, but it's on the low spot here. So they're kind of taking it easy on these players. Even if you short side yourself in this bunker, it's a relatively flat portion of the green. So it's not an impossible up and down from that sort of scenario. Any other miss and you're going to have a whole bunch of room to work with. So yeah, it's a new course. I didn't think they were going to take it that hard on these players, and this is kind of confirming that there. Now, this pin at 12 is a little bit trickier, I would say. You can see it is on that back right quadrant, so it is in between these two tiers that you can see. You've got the one through the middle of the green, and also that back left corner has a lot of slope to it. But if you can get it back behind this hole location, it's going to pull back right next to the hole. So it's I'd say trickier than some of the other ones, but this is still an easy pin location, especially compared to some of the other spots they could put it. Like this, I guess the low spot, I don't really think there's a hard pin location on this hole, I would say. This might be the trickiest that you have here, though, because these front ones are super easy. You'd see a bunch of birdies out here to any front pin location. Front right's probably about the same as what you have at this back left one, though. So, yeah, that's it with 12. Let's look at 13 next. So 13 is another one of the trickier holes just because it plays a little bit uphill for your second shot. Pin location, though, not going to be that tricky. In fact, it's a pretty straightforward pin location there. 14 is 120-yard par 3. That one is in this middle left quadrant. This one's only 3 paces from the side, so it's a lot more tucked than some of the other pin locations that you've seen. So it's a degreed wedge in, though. I'd expect to see a lot of people just aiming 5 to 10 feet right and trying to take that 5 to 10 footer for birdie. Hole 15 is a par 5, easily reachable in 2. It is in the back part of this green, though, so it might not be as simple as an up and down for birdie as what you had over there on the front side. Hole 16 is a longer par 3. This is one of the few holes that I think could really trick players up. This pin location, though, just like they did for some of the other harder holes that we've seen. 8, they're not taking it easy on the players, but some of the other ones for sure. It's on the low spot, and it's the shorter shot towards the front side of this green complex. So, yeah, I mean, you guys probably get the point at this point. They're going to save the carnage, the harder stuff out there for the weekend, it looks like. 17 is another one of the harder holes. This is a hard hole number 4, I believe, out there on the golf course, but it's another front pin on the low spot of the green. And you can see over there, it's just over this front slope, but on the low area. I mean, if they're going to take it hard on players, they'd put it on this back little quadrant. So I'd probably -1, -1.5 scoring average is, I think, realistic for tomorrow. Then finally, 18's in this back left corner. This one's tricky. So this is kind of like hole 8. So hole 8's the hard one on the front side. Hole 18 is going to be the really tricky hole out there in the back 9. It's going to play a little bit longer. So 520 yards if they fully tip it out. And that pin location, you have a lot of room to work with. So, and you can't really short side yourself that much because of the nature of the stands around it. But it is a long iron approach in. It's 200 yards in at least for these players out there, which is going to lead to some bogeys, but I don't think it's impossible with the kind of pin locations that they're using. So my preconceived notions that they weren't going to go that hard on the players seems to be confirmed after going through these pin locations. The front side, just to kind of go back to these pins, is where you're going to see guys go batshit crazy. If you're going to see players shoot -5 on a 9, it's going to be on this side of the golf course. The back side, holes 17, 18 aren't a joke. Holes I think it was 12 was also a kind of difficult hole that you had on that front side of the golf course. There's enough difficult holes on that side. Maybe it was 11. That was the difficult hole. I'm not quite sure whether it was 11 or 12. Either way, front side, though, if you're -4, -5 and turning, you're going to be totally fine. You go out there in the back, you birdie that par 5, you maybe add one more birdie on top of that. You get out of there even maybe +1 on that side of the golf course, and you're going to be in a good position heading into round number 2. So pin locations, not really changing my strategy all that much, other than to say that like these birdie lines, I think are still great. In fact, maybe even better value than what we had on them before. And I really like guys like Russell Henley here, maybe even a little bit more than what I liked him before, just because he's accurate off the tee. And then like hole 7 was a great example of this. If you're in the fairway at 7, it's probably going to be like a 50% birdie rate because it's down here in this bowl on the right side. You're going to have all that slope to help you get it close to it. And you're going to be hitting at most like 140 yards in. I mean, that would be if you laid up off the tee. You'd have like 140 yards in. You hit driver and you hit the short stuff here. That's a degreed wedge into this bowl pin location. I think accurate guys like Russell Henley that I was already on to begin the week are even better plays after seeing these pin locations. And it's only one round. It's only one set of pins. So it's only one day where I think it could be that big advantage, but maybe all the pins are kind of like that, right? I've never seen this golf course in play. We don't know where they're going to put the pin locations over 4 rounds, but after going through this, after 18 holes, there's certain spots where that's going to be extremely helpful. Like 13, for example, it's that front pin playing uphill to that pin location. That one, you definitely want to be in the fairway because you're not going to be able to get it close with only 7 paces to work with in front of it. Those are the examples of where Russell Henley could really get a big advantage. So it's clear these 2 out of there and then maybe add some more props to the shopping cart here. What's going on? Kevin said thoughts on Xander. So I like Xander this week, Kevin. He's somebody in DFS that I'll be using in lineups. He's putting extremely well on bent grass. In fact, of the top end guys, I believe he's the best bent grass putter by far of guys that are $9,000 plus. He's got solid form, particularly with the irons. He's getting over 1.2 strokes per round in that category. Just to show you guys the exact stats, because I do have those memorized. Don't ask why. I've got a good memory, but yes, I am a sicko when it comes to golf. I memorize stuff that much. Let's look at Xander. 1.4 shots gained approach per round over there. Last 24 rounds, it's just under a stroke gained per round over there in that category. And you can see with Xander Schauffele up top, the best bent grass putter of anyone that you have on that portion of the board. So yeah, Xander Schauffele, he's going to check a lot of boxes for you. Of course, guys, this spreadsheet that we're looking at right there, this is what I post over there on my Patreon page. So if you guys want to see my entire player pool, which is blacked out over there on this version, all my projected ownership, all my projections and modeling out there for this week's slate, make sure to check out my Patreon page. I'll link in the description to go out there and check that out. But any player deep dives that you have, guys, we can go through those together over there on the spreadsheet. Thanks, Luke. Oh, hey, Luke, you said. Of course, David, welcome on in. Thoughts on Cantlay? So I bet him for an outright this week. So he's one of the guys I talked up on Monday. I've got a lot of love for Cantlay at this course. Good bent grass putter. So just kind of like what you had over there with Xander. And the form's excellent. He's getting over a stroke per round out there with the irons. Everything I said about Xander, you can pretty much say about Cantlay. So that's why I like him. And then you said thoughts on Hovland. I'm at like a 5 out of 10 on him. The shots gained metrics are good with the iron play, good with the putter, but the advanced analytics, like the bent grass putting stats, not as favorable as what you have with some of those other players. He said thoughts on Harman. So by the way, guys, if you guys want to do the DFS stuff, I do have a whole live stream I already did for that over there on the Ship It Nation YouTube. By the way, a lot of these players, for example, like I've already gone fully over. So if you're here for that, you might want to check out that live stream because it's probably got a lot more of the information that you're looking for. Harman, I'll just bring up the stats real quickly for you. And if you guys have any of those kind of questions about specific players, like especially for DFS, make sure to check out that live stream. But you can see over here with Brian Harman, what is he like? $7,500. He's gaining in every category but off the tee. So the off the tee play is going to be his big question mark this week is can he hit enough fairways to not lose like 2 strokes in that category? With the fact that he's a lot shorter than most guys out there in this field, but everything else for him is very favorable. Iron play is the main thing I'm focusing on this golf tournament. I also like myself some bent grass putting. And on Brian Harman, let me bring up those stats for you. He's gaining close to 0.4 strokes per round over there on bent grass. Justin Rose, I've got a lot of love for as well, as you guys can see right there. He's the only player at this portion of the board that's got better bent grass putting stats. So if you guys can't tell, that's what I'm leaning into at this golf tournament. It's I gave a lot more of a deep dive over there in the DFS live stream. But this is a course that we don't know a whole lot about. It's our first time ever seeing it out there in tour. I mean, it's impacting our prop process, as you guys can see here. For DFS, it's the same. So, I'm trying to take a stance against a lot of the people out there, a lot of the people spewing narratives and whatnot about what they expect this week, because who knows how it's going to play. Maybe it's not a course where you have to be long off the tee. If that's the case, Brian Harman, a fantastic play. If you have to be a bomber around here, it's probably not the best play. And the common narrative that I've heard, and I fully elaborate on this over there on that stream, is a lot of guys are going to bombers this week. And I don't necessarily agree with that, as you probably could tell out there with going through these pin locations. So before we go over this next slip, I do want to throw in some of these Phillies, some of the stuff from Myrtle Beach. So going over to the Myrtle Beach weather forecast tomorrow morning, and all the guys I like for tomorrow are all in the morning, have perfect conditions. I'm talking no wind over here in the HRRR. They're not playing at TPC or Myrtle Beach, by the way. They're playing at Dunes Club, which is just nearby out there to TPC or Myrtle Beach. But it's going to be extremely calm out there tomorrow morning. Not only that, they've gotten a lot of rain in Myrtle Beach over the last week or so, over 0.6 inches over the last 4 days, which is going to mean that the course is relatively soft, maybe not soupy soft like you had at times last year, but very soft. And if you guys have the stat averages for this event, which I don't have up right now, average for birdies was about 3.99 per round last year. So right about 4 birdies per round, which is why over here on a site like Prize Picks, I think there's some guys in the morning that could be some decent overs for birdies. Now, the one I'm going to point out here is going to be this Chris Gotterup one. It's one of the 3 overs for birdies that I took over there in the morning, just because Gotterup had the best odds. So to go over here to the Draftkings Sportsbook, we always like to use these odds for comparison when we can. If we go over here to round props, go over here to birdies or better, and then type in Gotterup. Earlier this morning, he was minus 130, and he still is at that same exact number right now. So a slight lean out there in that direction. And by the way, if you know anything about Gotterup in this event, he won it last year, right? He was the winner of the Myrtle Beach Classic. He heads into this event also in form. He's got 2 of his last 3 events as top 25 finishes on tour. So he's got that going for him, course history, and he's got the sportsbook juice out there in that direction. And he's the morning tee time, so he gets to have all those calm conditions. He's the kind of guy I'd be taking for that event. And as I was mentioning before, if we take one of these Myrtle Beach props and then we pair it up out there with a PGA prop for the Truist, you're going to get a full 3x payout. So for example, this is just me clicking a random one here to show you that. But like, for example, take any prop over there from the event over there in Philly, you're going to get a full 3x as opposed to 2.75x. So let's, I already have a bunch of props that I took. Let me find the best one to pair up with this one. Just trying to think which one to point out, because I got another like 5 or 6 birdie props that I've taken over there from this list. Let's think. It might be. Let's do Victor Hovland birdie. So Victor Hovland birdies over here at 4 was one of the ones that I played. And the reason why I chose Hovland in particular is he's the best player out of the ones I took out there from the birdie or better list. So on the year, if we go back to the birdie or better percentage list, he's number 11 on the PGA Tour. So he's one of the best players when it comes to posting birdie production. And of the guys that we already had at 4, like we already took the Russell Henley one, right? We already took this Cam Davis one. He's the next best player that we have available. And I was mentioning it earlier, maybe you're just joining us. I think the average for the field is going to be about 4 birdies per round. Victor Hovland, a well above average birdie or better percentage player. Also a guy that's been rock solid out there with his irons lately. He's been hot on the greens as well. He's been making a whole bunch of putts out there around the PGA Tour. This is the sort of player that I'll take with the push equity at 4. Now, is he always going to get to 5+? Probably not, but he's got a ton of push equity over there at 4 because that's the field average. And he's going to go over the field average more than he goes under it just because he's the number 11 player on tour when it comes to this category. And outside of the win, Victor hasn't even had that good of a year. Outside of the win, it was like all like top 15s, maybe like top 20s at best that Victor Hovland was posting. So kind of like a Cam Davis, who he also hasn't had the best 2025. The fact that he's able to manage ranking number 3 on tour in that category is ridiculous. It just shows how aggressive of a player he is. It's the same thing with Hovland. He hasn't been the 11th best player on tour this year, like not even close to it out there from a shots gained perspective, but he's number 11 in the category because he goes pin hunting on almost every single hole with soft greens, with the kind of pin locations that are down in bowls like what you have. That is very favorable for a player that's aggressive, like what you have with a Cam Davis or a Victor Hovland there. So obviously that first slip was just 2 props over there from the main event. But if you can find some props that you like over there from Myrtle Beach, you can see the advantage in doing so. You can get a slightly better payout out there on those 2-man slips. And Gotterup's not even the only one that I think makes sense. In fact, I'm just going to throw out another one here because On my Patreon page, by the way, right, you guys can find every slip that I'm playing for any given round. On my Patreon page, I already have 10 full slips out here for round number 1. So we're going to go over quite a bit here, but if you guys want everything I'm entering, make sure to check out the Patreon page because we've already got a ton of exposure out there for the first day. And as I see more value open up tomorrow, right, maybe with some of the stat averages, we can go out there and attack some low-hanging fruit that is still on the board. There's going to be even more to come over there as well. So make sure to check that out. But like, for example, Nicholas Norgard Muller, if we go back to the birdie averages here, he's the number 10 birdie percentage player in all the PGA Tour. Now he's playing on the weaker field event, the event that had about the 4 birdie average out there last year. He's got the morning tee time, so he's also going to have the low winds to go out there and attack. And sure, he doesn't have the same course history as a Goddard. It's his first time playing there at Myrtle Beach. But if the field average is going to be 4 per round, yeah, give me an over at 4.5 in a weak field event on the guy that's not just in that field, top 10 in birdie or better percentage. He's top 10 in all the PGA Tour. Like Eric Van Rooyen, all these other guys up here are all playing in the big time event. I think Harry Hall might be on the alternate field event. Him and Norgard, right, are your top players that are playing out there in the alt field events. Give me the top birdie or better percentage guy that we even have available on the right side of the draw. That's another thing that's great about Nicholas Norgard. In the form, though, it hasn't been that great this year. So kind of like a Cam Davis, for example, Norgard hasn't had like any top finishes. In fact, even more so than Cam Davis. He hasn't really played well at all here in 2025. Yet he's still number 10 in birdie or better percentage because of how aggressive of a player he is. And with the kind of pin locations that we have being so soft, being so gettable, really like that kind of an over. So let's take the Norgard Muller over and then mix them up with another one. Let's go Sam Burns over at 4. I was just kind of like going through the ones that I've already played. And where's Burnsy? Did they take him off or am I just blind? More than likely, I'm just blind, and that's why I can't find him on here. So there's Sam Burnsy over there at 4. He's another over that I'm taking for birdies over here for the Truist side. You can see over here, he's the number 16 birdie maker out there on the PGA Tour. So another one of those guys at a 4 projection where you have a lot of push equity, especially because I think the birdie average is going to be about 4 per round, where if he has an average day, he pushes whatever, we move on. But he has an above average day, which he has made regular over the last few seasons. And Sam Burns is going to be at a really good spot for us. And just to show you even more why I like Burnsy here, if you go to last year, he was the number 4 birdie percentage player at all the PGA Tour. You go to the year before that, and I know he doesn't rank as highly, but let's see, where's Sam Burns? Still above average out there in that category. I thought he was going to be like top 20, I guess. Memory didn't serve me that correctly there. Let's go to the year before that. Year before that, top 10 out there in birdie or better percentage. So, most times out here in tour, he is the elite of the elite when it comes to this category. So just like some of the other guys that we've taken it for, if that's where I'm putting the field average at, and, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if that's 100% going to be the case, but going through the pins, the super easy par 5s, that's where I'm going to put the average out there for round number 1. If I'm correct, this is going to end up being a pretty massive value over there at that 4 birdie mark. So those are a few different ways that you can take advantage of these round 1 boards. Over here on Underdog, we also have some props posted, but when they have all these multipliers on like every prop, I mean, like look at the board, guys. There's hardly anything on here. Like, sure, like this is like the only one I can see that doesn't have a multiplier on it. There's no fun playing on these sites because they screw you with the payouts. These multipliers, they essentially just compare to the sportsbook odds, like what you have here in Draftkings, FanDuel, Caesars, right? All these different sites have odds posted out here for these kind of props. What they do over here in Underdog is they match those odds and then they give you slightly worse value. So for example, right, if you're able to parlay these ones over here on FanDuel for the actual implied odds that you see there, like minus 130, minus 140, etc., the parlay payout for these sort of slips would be way, way, way higher over here on sites like FanDuel and DraftKings than what you're going to get over here in Underdog. They just undercut the other sportsbooks because they're a quote unquote DFS operator and they don't have to use all the same hold rules like you have over there on sites like FanDuel and DraftKings. And these are regulated books. They can only go so far when it goes to the hold out there on events. Sites like Underdog and Prize Picks, they don't have those same kind of regulations. So that's why I stay away from the boards when they get all these multipliers on them because it's super annoying. And then another thing that's really annoying is even if you don't have multipliers, look at the payout on 2 overs on birdies. It's 2.58x. I mean, that's just horse shit. That is absolutely terrible odds. On a 2-leg parlay, you're getting plus 158. out there on 250-50 props. Like, no thank you. So if you can find, another way to get around this, by the way, is Sahith, like maybe you like his over on birdies, is you could find Moeller over here, who's also posted over here on this site, or maybe they took him off. Or is he under Norgard? Maybe he's under Nicholas Norgard. Okay. Like, you could take his over at 4.5 over here. And if you switch up those two events, you can still get the 3x payout. So I think if you're going to enter anything on Underdog, at least what I did for my exposure out there for round number 1, is it was all combo slips for the most part. I was able to catch some of the stuff before they had multipliers on Monday. So that's part of the reason why I have a few slips that are just PGA only or are Truist only over here on this sort of a site. But if you're entering as of right now, this is the best way to do it. And I guess I'll just be fully transparent about this Sahith one. Let me actually, it's sad that I don't remember this with 100% certainty, but I'm 99% sure I played Sahith birdies this week. I'm going to double check just in case, though, through my slips. So I'm not giving you guys incorrect information. Where's it at? Okay, that's the one with Goddard up. Is this it? Maybe not. Okay, so I didn't play this one quite. I thought he did. I know I was looking at it because I know the sportsbook odds on this sort of one. So let's show you why I was looking at the Sahith one and why we may actually play it here together for the first time. So to go back to the sportsbook odds, let's go back to the Truist now so I can show you guys what we're looking at here. Where's the Truist Championship? God, I'm so blind when it comes to the shit. It was right at the top, of course, thinking it was further down towards the bottom. So we go over here to the birdie or better board, bring up Sahith Theegala. He's minus 130. In fact, minus 135 now out there for his over in that category. So, I don't think it's the worst guy to go out there and pair him up with. I looked at my slips. It was somebody else at 3.5 that ended up playing out there for the over. The same type of odds, though. He was also minus 135 out there for his over on Draftkings. So, yeah, maybe Sahith could be a player to go with. Maybe you could use the other one I used over there on my Patreon page. But that's a bunch of different ways that you could get exposure on this kind of slate. And it's a brand new golf course. I wouldn't go too crazy with your exposure. I didn't really take my own advice there, though, because I did enter 10 slips for round 1 already, which is well above what I normally do. But I saw an edge out there. I think it's going to play a lot easier what the sportsbooks seem to think, at least based on what I've seen out there hole by hole. No wind, also soft conditions. And if I end up being right, it could be a really, really good prop day out there for me. If it ends up playing, closer to what the sportsbooks think, I still think I can grind out some profit because I went out there and took overs and positive stance plays on players that made sense, right? It wasn't just like random overs on birdies. It was on the guys that are the aggressive players, guys that are top 3, top 5, top 10, top 20 birdie or better percentage players out there in the PGA Tour. It was guys for the Myrtle Beach event that are going to have the nutted conditions when there's no wind out there that are also towards the top 10 to top 20 out there in birdie or better percentage. In Goddard's case, past champion at that kind of golf course. The key to going out there and being a profitable bettor with PGA props is having multi-pronged approach, having multiple different reasons for being on plays, whether it's sportsbook line value, right? We saw that with doing some of the line shopping on sites like Draftkings, whether it's weather-based, or whether it's traditional analysis based, where we're looking at some of the stat averages, like we did here with birdie or better percentage. When you can find all three of those things aligning together, that's where you can really find value with your props. And that's what I choose to focus on with the stuff that I'm actually playing. It isn't just hoping that I get lucky for any given slate, is finding props that check as many boxes as humanly possible before I go out there and enter them myself. And if you agree with that kind of thought process, you want to learn more about how to go out there and execute that yourself, make sure to check out my Patreon page down below. There's a link in the description of the video to go out there and check it out. Not only do I post every single slip that I'm entering as I'm getting to it, but I post weather reports, also stat averages for all these given events. No stat averages this week because it is the first time that we're seeing it. But after we have the stat averages for round number 1, rounds 2 through 4, that you're going to have that for your round, for your exposure out there for Friday through Sunday. So make sure to check that out if you guys haven't already, and catch up on any questions down there in the chat. Let's see. Yo said Hobbit Harmon could take it. I hope so, man. That'd be a lot of fun. And we got my guy Jeremy down there in chat. He says Whiskey Man. Yeah, that's what they're calling me out there on the golf course these days. And welcome on in, Jeremy. I'm glad we got your account back here in the chat and able to go down there and comment for us. He's by the way, Jeremy is a very good golfer. I'm going to be very nice to you, Jeremy, over here in this live stream. Best golfer I know, actually, that I play with regularly. So enjoy the victory lap while you can, Jeremy. And all I want to know, if you're still there in the chat, is whether you beat Forbes or not. after I left. I know you guys probably had some sort of match going out there for the last few holes. Did you whip his ass, or did you get your ass whipped? Is I guess the question. Let's go through some other stuff here in the sports book. So outside of just going through some of the stroke stuff, birdie stuff over there on those, I like to look at these matchups as well. And I'm not going to be playing a ton of matchups before we really get to see the golf course. But if you're a believer in some of those like fairway first players having a chance, like Russell Henley, somebody that I'm betting for an outright this week, then let's see who he's matched up against. So he's against an O'Bear and a Sepp Straka. Straka's kind of tough. I like the form with him. But an O'Bear, you could maybe take these positional kind of players against some bombers. And if that narrative, at least my take on the golf course, that the guys that can keep themselves in play still have a chance around here, if that ends up being true, then you might be able to find some value on some of these more positional players. So let's see. We don't have shots gained metrics to work with yet. That's usually my go-to out here for these kind of things, but we'll do a quick gander throughout these to see if anything really stands out. So I kind of like Glover this week. Now, he is in the worst form out of these three players, but let's not act like Glover's in terrible form. In fact, just to show you guys the shots gained metrics, Glover's playing pretty damn well. Go to the last 12 rounds, gaining off the tee, gaining over there with his approach play, just losing over there with the putter. I don't know. Plus, he's the biggest long shot in that kind of group, despite that kind of form. It's almost worth a play just based on principle alone. So we'll leave him in the shopping cart for now. Let's see. Did you beat his ass? He missed a 2-footer to win. So you end up pushing out there against him. You made a 9 and he shot even for the day. Yeah, bro. By the way, Jeremy was one of the guys I was playing with before I did the first live stream. He birdied like 5 of his first like 8 holes or something. He kicked our ass. Me and my brother played a scramble against him and he pushed us. I'll be the first to admit that. And I played pretty decently today. So did my brother. He pushed us against a scramble. So you deserve the victory lap, man, especially if he kicked his ass after I left. That's what I want to hear. Let's see, what else do we have on here? So I'm looking for some long shots on these 3 balls, maybe something we could sprinkle. I like Robert McIntyre this week, but he's the favorite in that group. You know, if we could have him as like number 2 or 3, maybe I'd consider him for that sort of bet. Never betting Sim Burns as a favorite in this sort of field. I don't care if he's going against Benny and Eric Cole. That is just blasphemy. Plus 130 on Sun GM with his shaky form. Like, I can't do that either. Alex Noren's returning from injury. So if anything, this plus 200 on Adam Scott, I hate to pick on Sanjay because I like him, but like that's mispriced. I know Scotty's not playing his best golf, but there's no way. And how is JT Poston plus 140? Like, I love Poston. I've been early to the Postman for 3-4 years at this point. I used to talk up JT Poston before anyone even knew who he was. Out there on the PGA Tour, there's no reason he should be plus 140 and then Cam Davis plus 225. Now, I already have a bunch of Cam Davis exposure, so maybe I don't go too overboard on it, but like this Adam Scott one definitely feels a little bit mispriced. And sure, like I don't think he should be the favorite between him and Noren, but I don't think he should be plus 200 either, especially with Noren as kind of like a hanging guy there at plus 200. I don't want to say he's not a factor, but with the fact he's returning from injury, first round back, right? Give me one of those other 2 players for sure over an Alex Noren. Let's see, Fowler versus this Woodland group. Kind of worried about the injury with Woodland and Fowler. I love rookie, but he's a loose cannon at this point at best. Jordan Spieth is a massive favorite over McNeely and Minwoo. I agree with that, but I'm not betting him at plus 140. Again, Jordan Spieth isn't the old Jordan Spieth. He's far from that at this stage. Thor Bjornsson at plus 210 though. 215, I guess, actually would be the exact number there. Let's line shop that one. Let me see what we can get over there in Hard Rock before I make a decision there. Rose is plus 200 against these 2. I'm kind of liking some of these long shots here because no one knows how this golf course is going to play. Or at least no one has an exact idea of how this golf course is going to play. So I have a hard time thinking that these sports books can price this with full confidence here. Like I know they can't, actually. It's for certain that they're going to have some uncertainty behind it. Let me see what I can get on Hard Rock because Hard Rock posts odds of their own. They're not afraid to be a little bit different than some of these other sports books. If I can find a better line than any of these 3 over there, I'm going to bet it right away. So let's see what we have. They make searching for these bets extremely difficult, by the way, over there in Hard Rock. So
Hopefully it doesn't take us forever to find these. Let's see. Matchup bets, and we want first round 3 balls. Correct. So Scott, Thor, and Rose. Let's see. So Cam Davis, they have a plus 230, by the way, right? That was one of those ones we were kind of looking at. Plus 230 is better than the number that we had available at plus 225. So I know I didn't love that one, but with the line being a little bit better, like maybe we'll go back to that. Let's see. So Rose is plus 220 on Hard Rock Bet. So that's significantly better than that plus 200 right there. That's almost for sure going to make a bet. Adam Scott is plus 220 as well. So that number is also better than what you have with some of these other ones. And let's find the Thor versus the Michael Kim and Mitchell group. So Thor is plus 220. So, his odds are pretty similar to what you had over there on DraftKings, right? He's plus 215. Let me see what he is on FanDuel, because FanDuel usually has slightly better odds than what you have over there on DraftKings. That's just kind of how they do it. Let's see. Where's the 3 balls? So there's the 3 balls. Let's find Thor Bjornsson. Thor is plus 220. So, yeah, I can get the same exact line value as what I could get on those other books. But maybe I'll just go with the ones I can find good line value on, right? We always want to have bets that we can find the biggest edge on. So let's go with those ones. And I'll bet them straight at plus 220 for 1 unit a pop over there at that sort of number. So let's go ahead and throw that in there. Profit boost at 10%. Why not? And go ahead and make that happen as well. And get even better odds on that plus 220. So with the 10% profit boost, we can get that up to plus 242 out there on that sort of thing. So we'll take it. Pretty decent odds out there on those sort of plays. And for round 1, that's all I'm going to go with. I'm not going to go crazy with my exposure. It's just these 2 props that I ended up taking myself. And if we end up getting one of the 2 correct, it's profit, right? If we end up getting neither one correct, then it's minus 2 units lost. We end up getting both correct, then we'd really be cooking out there for round number 1. So the thing with these 3 balls too, right, is if there's a tie, you end up getting the dead heat rolls between those 2 players. On a plus 200, it's a lot easier to stomach that. And if it's like plus 120, and then you end up hardly making anything off of your wager on that sort of scenario. So that'll be it for the matchup side. But in general, guys, I think that there's quite some value to be had out here in round number 1. There's for the Myrtle Beach event, over here for the main event over there in Truist. I think it's going to play pretty easy out there from the scoring perspective. And then even for these 3 balls and whatnot, embrace the chaos. It's a new course, something that these players aren't used to. It's going to be soft conditions. Who knows what kind of skill set's going to go out there and find some success. Some long shots out there from the 3-ball perspective are definitely in play out there tomorrow. Now, hopefully our long shots are the ones that go out there and get that job done. But even if you want to look at some of these other groups and try and find some plus 180 to plus 250 kind of plays out there for tomorrow, I'm all for it out there with your exposure. Henley or Spieth as a last man in for your single entry. You can fit in either one. You feel like Henley's a smart play, but your heart says Jordan Spieth continues the momentum. That's a tough one, man. I actually like both players this week out there in my lineups. If you have the salary for Henley, projection-wise, I'll actually double check for you real quickly. So 1 second. Let me bring up my sheet that doesn't have anything censored. I think the projection's pretty close on the 2, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Henley is favored. So, yeah, Henley I have projecting a little bit better than a Jordan Spieth. The smart play is most likely to go with Henley. If you want to follow your heart and go with Jordan Spieth, I can't talk you off of it because, you know the case with me. I'm a massive Jordan Spieth guy. He's my favorite player out there in tour. I try to find any excuse possible to go out there and jam him into lineups. It's close, but I think you're right. Unfortunate to say, but I think you're right? It's Jordan Spieth is probably play number 2 between these 2. That's all I've got, guys. Best of luck out there with all the exposure that you guys are getting to. Go ahead, smash that like button if you guys haven't already, and also subscribe to the channel so you guys don't miss any of the content to come. That will, of course, include all the content for rounds 2 through 4. We'll have our prop live streams over here on the channel, going through all the Underdog and Prize Pick stuff, also the matchups and 3 balls out there for the rest of the week. So subscribe so you guys don't miss when I'm going live for all of those, as well as all the showdown stuff over there on the Ship It Nation YouTube. Those will be live just before
we go live over here for the prop aspect. So if you're looking for the fantasy stuff, make sure to check out the Ship It Nation YouTube for that, because that's where we've been doing all of our fantasy stuff from the live perspective, which tonight I was at 7 p.m. Eastern time, so a little bit earlier than what we had on the prop side of things. It's going to be the same thing for rounds 2 through 4. Showdown will be over there on the Ship It side. Prop stuff over here afterwards, probably about an hour and a half later. And that'll be our routine and our momentum and the way we handle things out there throughout the rest of the year. But that's all I've got, guys. Hopefully our round 1 treats us nicely. It can make this event one to remember out there this week.